Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Navigating Your Tech Career with our amazing partner, SThree. My name is Sapphire Duffy, and I'm Senior Community Manager at Women Who Code. We will just get started in a few minutes. In the meantime, let us know where you're joining from in the chat. I can start. My name is Sapphire, and I am located in Northern Ireland. Oh, we have a lot of people. Stephanie from Massachusetts, Chantel from Portland, Shauna from Maine, Echo from Canada, Titania from Texas, Marky from Savannah, Georgia, Rose from Logan from Portland, Kelly from New York, Phoebe from London, SL from Germany, Emily from Georgia, Liana from San Francisco, Kat from South Florida. Welcome, everyone. I see a couple more people's joined. Welcome to today's session. Let us know where you're joining from in the chat. And let us know what you are navigating in your career. Tiffany from San Francisco, Alison from Minneapolis, Luke from Manchester. Oh my goodness, we have people from all over the world joining us today. Welcome, everyone. Esmeralda from Chicago. Susan's joining from San Francisco. Let us know in the chat what you're currently navigating in your career. Welcome, Kadrin from Germany. Chantel is navigating a career change from ecological research into software development. That's awesome. Rose is trying to get into tech, leading with the creative background. Thanks for sharing. We have Phoebe, coding student, graduating in September. Archana is trying to become a tech lead or engineering manager from senior dev. That's awesome. Good luck. We have Cynthia. Oh, my chat. Cynthia is trying to figure out more options and digital product, and she's a digital product developer. Kelsey is currently in a boot camp and looking to get into a technical role. Awesome. Travis is currently trying to move out of technical support into software engineering. Awesome. And Titania, recent graduate trying to get first opportunity in UX web development. Thanks everyone for sharing. Let us know. Welcome. We have a lot of new people that joined us. Welcome, everyone. Let us know where you're joining from in the chat and what you're currently navigating in your career. We have Amber from Utah trying to get promoted or move to a new position as a systems admin. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing and good luck. Tiffany, junior dev, trying to figure out smart career moves from this stage. Oh, Morgan from Asheville, NC, navigating career change from finance to UX. Liana, contractor out of a job and never had a full-time role. Went to college straight into startups, but would like to look for a full-time remote role. Oh, that's awesome. Good luck, Liana. Suzanne, recent bootcamp grad, navigating a career change from food product development into software engineering. That's awesome. That's a big change. Good luck. Kelsey, just starting out in career, current student background in healthcare, excited to jump into a new field. Oh, we have many people transitioning into tech role. We have Laura, who's transitioning back into tech from academia. Many different backgrounds joining us today, many different career paths. Thank you all for joining, everyone. We have a couple more people that joined. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. This is Navigating Your Tech Career with our amazing partner, SThree. Let us know where you're joining from in the chat, and yeah, let us know where you're joining from and what you're currently navigating in your career. We have Perry from Sunnyvale, CA, currently looking at next role, software development, while finishing CS Master's program. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining the session. We'll get started. I see a couple more people's joined. Just let us know where you're joining from in the chat and what you're currently navigating in your career. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start with a little bit about Women Who Code. Our mission is to empower diverse women to excel in technology careers. And our vision is a tech industry where diverse women and historically excluded people thrive at every level. At Women Who Code, we take our code of conduct very seriously. And Women Who Code is an inclusive community dedicated to providing an empowering experience for everyone who participates in or supports our community. And our events are intended to inspire women to excel in technology careers. And anyone who is here for this purpose is welcome. We do not tolerate harassment of members in any form, and our code of conduct applies to all Women Who Code events, including this one, and our online communities, such as our Slack communities and social media. And you can read our full version at this link website that's shared on the slide. And if you ever need to file an incident report, you can do this at this link as well. We have several amazing and exciting events coming up hosted by our Women Who Code networks and technical track communities. And you can see this by visiting womenwhocode.com/events. If you would like to scan this QR code, that will take you to our Women Who Code networks page, where you can find links to join our Slack communities and social media. Women Who Code is on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So yeah, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sapphire Duffy, and I'm Senior Community Manager at Women Who Code. And today's session is Navigating Your Tech Career with our amazing partner, SThree. I'm excited to welcome our amazing speakers today. Rachael Cahill is a motivated, energetic manager with great success in delivery of a wide range of IT and business change projects. Welcome, Rachael. And we have Rayhana. Rahman is a change management innovation technologist. She encourages and supports talented people to become the best they can through coaching and team management. Welcome, Rayhana. And we have Kirste Worland is an experienced and highly motivated strategic leader, currently delivering services within the NHS Business Services Authority, with a proven track record of delivery and a passion and drive for people development. Kirste is passionate about developing talent pools across a range of areas, not just within the organisation, but also across various educational and military pathways. Welcome, Kirste. And we have Varinder Kandola, manages the SThree Bristol permanent division across Computer Futures, CF Salesforce, and Huxley Engineering brands. She is responsible for developing a positive working culture and delivering exceptional customer experience. She is passionate about creating diverse and inclusive workplace. Thank you for joining us today, Rachael, Rayhana, Kirste, and Varinder. I will now pass the session over to you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Sapphire, and good evening or good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. Thank you so much for listening into the discussion. So I'm really excited to be facilitating the discussion today. It's a topic that's really close to my heart, having spent the best part of 13 years supporting people in making either a career change or career decisions that have been important to them, either through SThree as part of the service that we offer, or in my role as a business leader. And extremely passionate about supporting women achieve their full potential in the workplace. So not only excited just to facilitate the conversation, but also learn from our amazing panelists today. So looking forward to the wisdom that you guys are going to share. I'd love to just jump straight into the discussion. And Rachael, I'm going to come to you first. As we've heard in some of the chat, there's a lot of people that are on the call today that are looking to either make a career change or take a step in a completely new direction, which it can be quite daunting, right, to know where to start. So from your experience, what would you suggest or recommend is the best place to start when you're looking to take a new step in a new direction?
So what was fantastic for me was hearing and seeing through the chat that the diversity of people on the session today. I saw we had a teacher We had a seamstress, which interests me. My grandmother was a seamstress. Ecology research, somebody from finance. What was fantastic there is, as I said, that diversity of thought and experience. People coming from non-technical backgrounds, bringing with them probably a raft of transferable skills. And I think that's what is probably the most important thing to think about when you're taking that first step. My experience 23 years ago was I completed a linguistics and social science degree with very limited technology content within that degree, but found something that a little spark of something that I found interesting in technology and really wanted to progress. So what I always say to everyone is that those transferable skills are so important. Don't be overwhelmed that maybe you don't know lots and lots of tech speak and all that detail. Technology is about communication, it's about sharing requirements, it's about organizing people, it's about pulling people together, it's translating very detailed technical information and imparting that with a business. So the first thing I'd encourage everybody to think about is think about what you are good at, what are your skills. Also think about what you enjoy doing as well, not necessarily just from a technology perspective, but generally in life. Also think about what you don't like as well. I think that's it's equally as important, is think about what you don't like to do. And then start to have conversations around where the roles might be in technology that meet what you like, what you don't like, and what you are good at. But those transferable skills are so important. I know the rest of the panelists have discussed that. We've discussed that at great length previously. Don't just think about those technical skills that I could also see that people have been talking that they've been on boot camps with the technical skills. It has to be transferable skills as well. So just take that time to think, write down, note, maybe speak to some of the people to give you a bit of feedback as well about what they see your transferable skills being. I don't know what the guys think about that.
I was going to say, I think that's a really great point about actually using other people as a sounding board, because I know in my experience, sometimes people don't know what their strengths are. It comes so naturally to them that they don't identify it as a strength. So I think using your network or even some tools that I've used in the past have really helped me identify my strengths and then be able to play to those, which has been really supportive in my career. Rayhana, I know that you also made quite a big move, didn't you? You were with a company for a very long time and then had to take a step to change direction and change roles completely. I don't know if there's any insight that you had in relation to what was the approach that you took and anything that people can learn from your personal experience.
Yeah, just before I was going to explain that, I thought what Rachael said, two people came to my mind when you're talking about transferring skills. So one was a colleague who was a teacher previously in their previous role, and wanted to become an agile coach. So had gone and learnt about agile, etc., but applied, and it was their personality that came through in the interview that got them through that first step. But then the recruiter was willing to give them a try because of the skills they brought, and they were an amazing agile coach, because as a teacher you're facilitating, managing all those people, students, sorry, and it's a skill you then learn of how to get people to engage, get people to go on that journey and learn. And so never think that just because you didn't start as somebody in technology you can't then move into it. Sorry, Varinder, you were then asking about the change I did. Mine was recent, only 10 months ago. So I'd been working with my previous organisation for 15 years, and I had gone through many changes in roles within the organisation and came to the realisation that if I wanted to now make the next step, it wasn't going to unfortunately be in the company that I was in, and I would actually have to look outside. Bearing in mind, I hadn't really looked outside, didn't really know what the sector was like, didn't even know sort of the job description title I had matched anything that was out there in the sector. And it was through, and I contacted people that I knew, who I'd known in previous jobs and managers, and I saw an advert of a recruitment agency that was all about people, in the sense that they were B Corp and wanted to do the best for the individual, which was like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't even know there were B Corp companies out there offering that sort of service. Had an initial conversation and I was like, I know I'm really good at managing people. I love building, creating, developing them. But my technical skills aren't, I understand it, I can advise, but I'm not hand-on coder or developer. And, you know, I did that as a student, but not since. And I sort of thought, these jobs probably don't even exist. And they're like, no, it's fine. Hear what you said. And it was lovely that you felt I'm being heard. Someone's actually listening to what I'm talking about and they're reassuring me. And then they sort of sent me sample job descriptions and said, you know, are these the sort of things you're looking for? And then suddenly I sort of felt, oh my God, there are these jobs out there. There are these things I can do and they match what I'm looking for. That there's all these tech for good. There's these B Corp companies that are putting people first. It's not just about profit. And it was just raising my confidence that actually after that long in one organization, I can take my skills and actually do something somewhere else. So it is, find the right person to help you. Recruitment companies are out there. And to be honest, they've changed so much since I did it years ago. So they really want to support and take you along on the journey. And, you know, they kept in touch beforehand, they've kept in touch afterward. So I've really, really appreciated it. Sorry, I might have been too long there.
No, not at all. It's always good to hear about people's personal experiences. And I think a lot of people on the call can take confidence that you don't need to have all of the technical experience for you to be able to move into one of those roles. I think that's one of the key things that's come out of this part of the conversation is being able to identify your strengths, identify transferable experience into the role that you're looking for, think about what you enjoy, and then using your networks, right? Whether that's a recruiter, whether it's people you know, to be able to help you identify what's actually out there. There's quite a lot out there. Kirste, I don't know, I'll come to yourself. I don't know if you've navigated in your career, be it different opportunities within organisations or your experience of moving into new positions, if there's anything that you wanted to give insight on.
I mean, to be fair, Rayhana and Rachael have done a great job of kind of touching all of the points that I suppose I've experienced in my career lifetime. I've literally just migrated from the NHS Business Services Authority into an IT director role for Newcastle Building Society. And I suppose sharing that part of my journey, I was in a really fortunate position whereby I'd recently undertaken a master's degree. And as part of that, there's that self-reflection around your skills and capabilities. So being able to self-advocate, not just on, you know, the type of roles you want, but being able to self-advocate on your skills, your capabilities, and be confident about owning them. I reflected back on a particular moment in my career in preparation for this, whereby my manager had said I wasn't assertive. I believe I am assertive. I'm just not assertive in his definition. So I reached out to a colleague elsewhere in the NHS, and she was an absolutely brilliant mentor. So I could test this sort of thing out on her and say, look, these are the things that I do to kind of persuade people, influence people, coach people, move them along so that I can get them to do what I need them to do. I feel that I am assertive, but I'm just assertive in a different way. And actually being able to talk to her, she'd gone through her career and her sharing kind of connected with me. So I felt as though I wasn't alone anymore. And being in the world of IT, often we're experiencing some very masculine expectations, shall I say, and often we're not recognized for our own kindness or our own empathy, and that helps us to actually navigate some of these challenges along the way. So I think that's probably the different thing that I would add to what Rachael and Rayhana have. But yes, I mean, I did not start off in IT at all. I got kicked out of school at 18 because I was pregnant, and I'm quite happy to share that in a public forum, because what happens throughout your career and your life doesn't always go according to plan, and it's just about having that determination, that resilience, and keeping going. And it does help if somebody is willing to take a chance on you. So I suppose the other side of it is I always try to, if I see some potential in somebody, I try and help them keep that door open to help them through that journey as well. So I suppose those are the things I would share from my experiences.
There's often
not-
technical skills, sorry, Varinder.
No,
Often technical skills can be taught, but that spark, that something else can't be taught. You know, like you're saying about the influencing skills, that's sometimes quite innate of how a person will influence or deal with people. And that's what we need in technology, is that diversity of practice, in that sense, that we don't want everybody to be all, shall we call it, the traditional assertive. We want to have a wide spectrum of people being assertive in different manners, because also on the other side of that, people respond differently, don't they, as well, to that.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
Rachael, absolutely. Yeah.
We went through a number of years ago in my previous organisation a realisation that there needed to be a balance, a gender balance, but what it was that there were so many soft skills that came into the organisation because of that, because of understanding your user requirements, facilitating sessions to get that sort of detail, get that richness, being able to manage a group of people, are all things that not everybody's technical wants to do. So that there is, you're almost taking somebody who's really good technically and trying to then give them a management role, and it's you're bending their skills to something that they're not enjoying. So there's a space for everybody. Do you know what I mean? Whether you're technical or non-technical.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can take confidence from what you said as being leaders in tech, in terms of what you actually look for. And that point that you said there, Rachael, in relation to some of the technical skills can be taught, right? But in terms of your soft skills, or what comes naturally to you in terms of playing to your strengths, that often can't be taught, right? So that's really good to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people will take a lot of confidence from that. I'm just going to circle back to some of Kirste's points, because you said quite a lot in your experience.
All right.
No, it was good. It was good. You touched up on a lot of points, and one of the points that you said was that you reached out to a peer or a colleague, and then we got into a bit of a conversation there about mentors or having people that support you in the workplace. So it'd be really interesting to hear from you the impact that mentors or sponsors or peers have had in your experience in terms of navigating your career. And then for anyone that's on the call, how do you go about sourcing a mentor or a sponsor? You know, some of them come naturally, but it'd be great to hear your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had 3 main mentors, sponsors across my career, 2 women and a man. And the man was called John Morgan, and he knows I talk about him on a frequent basis, and I really attribute the start of my career to John. We'd worked together on a piece of a project, and he saw potential, and we'd had a conversation, and gave me my first opportunity 20 years ago into IT. And all the way throughout my entire career, I've known that I can go to John and go, I need to test this out. Can you give me some advice and guidance? And we're still friends 20 years later, and I still use them for that purpose. Specifically within the NHS, I actually reached out through LinkedIn to somebody who'd come in and done a talk to us. So they'd been talking about leadership. I was really inspired by that person. And you know, when you've kind of got it bubbling through your head and there's that fear factor, will they say yes? And I don't know, in a moment of bravery, I thought, I'm just going to message that person. The worst that can happen is they don't reply to me. So I just explained where I was in my career, what I valued about what I'd heard in their speaking, and they agreed to be my mentor, and that was for a short term, because I was having a little bit of confidence issues, and that was about a 6-month period. And then the third person was a trusted colleague, and she just had some amazing skills and qualities around the way she conducted and was able to influence. And I was just in complete awe. And there's not many people at our level who we can learn from. And I just felt I could learn so much from the way she conducted herself and the way that she had that presence. and she's still my mentor. We have chats and we have conversations, and we just kind of bounce things around. She doesn't work for the NHS anymore. We've both moved on, but we've created that connection, and it's been so helpful. And again, that was just a conversation where I'd said, I'd really value, these are the things I've seen that I really value about you. Would you mind? And she was a little bit embarrassed, but agreed. Yeah.
That's great to hear. And that sounds like you've used all different types of networks. One that was a direct line manager, one where you just reached out yourself on LinkedIn, and then another one where you've seen strengths in someone where actually you'd like to learn from them. So, and that ties in a lot to really having advocates in the business. It can support you in your career. Rachael, Rayhana, I don't know if there's anything to add from your perspective in relation to having people support you in the business through sponsorship or through your peers and people to learn from.
I found when in my previous organisation, when I was interested in progressing, I approached my CIO, and she helped me in identifying ways to improve, but she'd give me an action or a task to go away with. So we'd have like a general chat, and then she'd be like, I'm just going to give you some homework, go away and do X, Y, and Z, and then come back and let me know how that was. But what she also did was she opened the doors by seeing opportunities that I wouldn't necessarily, because she's obviously seeing the wider picture across the organisation, know about projects that are going on. And she would then say, go and speak to so-and-so, put yourself forward for this project, etc., which then gave me the confidence that, if my CIO believes that I can go and do that, then, but that built that confidence in me to then look for opportunities myself, because I created a bigger network within the organisation to sort of see what else is there. I joined and led in the committee for our Black and minority ethnic group within the university where I worked. And I felt I was making a difference, which was wider than just having that technical role that I sat with. It then gives you more confidence to go out and look for things that you want to do and enjoy, and maybe slightly more different. So I'd get invited then to projects that that people say, I'll be really interested in your opinion on these sort of changes we're making for students and policies. And, looking back, I would have never have thought of going in that direction, because to me, it was like, that's separate to what I do in technology. So that way you can go out and find opportunities, but also working with your network, talking about things that you want to do. If they're types of people who are always aware of things going on, they then highlight those to you as well and sort of say, oh, that might be something that you're interested in. So there is an element, you do have to go and put yourself out there, but it doesn't have to be strangers. It can be people even catching up with people through LinkedIn and sort of saying, oh, I'm interested in this. Is there something going on and you haven't spoken to in ages? But that's what LinkedIn's supposed to be for, is to find those opportunities. I'm not sure we use it as much as we could do.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, that you spoke to somebody that had visibility over the organisation, to not just think about what moves you can make externally. They've got the experience to have, and actually visibility over different areas of the business, knowing you where you can actually maybe look to make a move internally. So again, for anyone that's listening, that's thinking about making a bit of a move or a change, it doesn't always need to be external. If you could reach out to somebody senior enough in your business that you trust, it's a great way, I guess, to showcase your skills and also have an opportunity to be involved in different networks and projects. So that's a really great point on both sides of this whole topic, which is identifying new opportunities, but also having advocates for you in the business. Rachael, I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to...
So for me, I've kind of, I think across my career, there's been kind of almost two support groups where from a mentor or sponsor perspective. I think the first one is those mentors who have really lifted me up and given me confidence, because I think that's something that particularly I as a woman have struggled with, probably because of my conditioning. Over the years, I'm lucky to have very supportive parents who've built me up, but I think there's always been that little in the back of my mind of that there are certain standards that I should be following. And there's definitely been two colleagues during my time that have very much helped me understand, how to be confident in myself and not to shy away. If I want to shine, that I should shine. Don't step back, don't be afraid to step into the light. And I think that's really important, is finding somebody who can on your level help you with your confidence. And I know that's really hard. I know that's really tricky. The number of times I have conversations still today with my team on confidence and how you can build that. I often have conversations about having somebody sitting on their shoulder, whispering into their ear all the great things that they're achieving, all the wonderful things that they've managed to do, all the great days that they've had, to almost drown out the other shoulder that's giving them the, oh, you didn't do that very well, and you should have put your hand up then, and oh, why didn't you do this? So I think that's really important. And then on the other hand, I've had some great mentors who have become really good friends as well, who have helped me then find new roles when the time has come for change. And those people, again, have been people I can trust to go to and say, I'd like a new opportunity. And circling back to the beginning, I suppose, of what do you think's next for me? Where have you got any ideas on what I could do differently? Whether it's something sideways to help me progress because I want to do something a bit different. But again, to have those really open and honest conversations, sometimes maybe let's call them fragile conversations, in that you're exposing yourself a little bit to somebody that you trust, to say, please help me, I want to do something a bit different. But really clear that somebody that you can trust to have that conversation with. So that's where I find myself, I think, with where I've had mentors and sponsors, and I've found those the most powerful relationships are the ones that have helped build me with confidence in times, and those that I've had been able to have the trust to really expose what I was thinking and have a trusted conversation with them.
And if I may just come in and add into that, I think one of the things I found is having a network of colleagues who I trust, and I can have those open dialogues, not just in the roles of mentors, but actually somebody who can go, was I a bit rubbish that day? Or, actually, I'd really welcome your feedback on, can you just help me work through that? And having that trusted safety, that's creating that psychological safety in amongst your network, I think has been incredible. I've really valued that.
I can completely identify with that. It's all well and good having someone advocate for you, but you need people to give you feedback when it's not completely going right. And if you trust someone, you've got a good relationship with them, you're going to believe it, for one, and secondly, it softens the blow a bit. I guess. So we've talked a lot about identifying different opportunities and how you've all gone about doing that. The power, I guess, of mentors, peers, sponsors, and how they've supported you advocate yourself in the workplace. Is there anything that you can give to people in terms of advice on how best to advocate for themselves when stepping into a new career or a new direction?
Was that it, me, Varinder, or was that just generally? I suppose I took a gasp thinking, I could answer this one.
No, go for it.
So again, I'm very happy and free to share. I'm neurodivergent, and about 6 years ago is when I started to share my neurodivergence. Up until then, I hid that completely, and I was probably working ridiculous amounts of hours to try and cover up some of the characteristics associated with that. So I had a little think about something, because my family's very colourful. I come from a family who are all neurodivergent. I've got autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, right across the family. And I don't know, my youngest in particular, and it just kind of struck me that if I don't be brave and advocate for myself, then how are my children going to navigate the world of employment? So by being honest, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified in the first instance, but advocating for myself around what I might need to bring my very best to work, knowing that I had a good reputation where I was. I'd already built up that trust in me, that they knew I was reliable and all of that, and then started to have those conversations. But in doing so, I was then able to advocate for others as well, because what I was able to do is be able to raise the awareness and the conversations. And I'm sure Rayhana's probably got some very, very similar stories to tell as well. Yeah. And I think it's just about taking that deep breath and just saying it. And once you've said it the first time and then the second time, regardless of what that advocacy looks like, it gets a little bit easier. And then you're able to advocate for others as well. And people trust you. That would be my
No,
experiences.
thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's really powerful that you've also used like your personal experiences and motivators to give you the courage to do it, because it can be quite tough to take that first step. Rayhana, it sounds like you have got a lot to add, and I know we spoke before actually.
I think there was quite a realization, as you can imagine, when I started in tech. Women getting into tech was it was rare to see women in tech. I remember studying, and we had over 100 students on the course, but there were single figures of women or young women on the course. So it was always trying to battle through. But then it was the realization that obviously, as someone of colour, that you also stand out. And then you probably won't realise this because you don't know me yet, but only a few years ago I started wearing a hijab because I was very conscious that I've got to be authentic and bring myself into the room, which means I want to also present that other part of me. But all those are representations that you then bring in and say, if I can do it, you can do it. And if I don't stand and show that it's possible, then nobody else is going to do it. And the more you show that it is possible, the more females will apply. So I've been keen on having part-time females because I think they can develop code just as well as full-time people. But you have to prove that and demonstrate that so that people go, oh yeah, that's normal now. Do you know what I mean? We take on part-time people. It's once you make a step and prove it can be successful, people are then willing to treat it as normal. And it's that I've tried to grow very diverse teams and just demonstrate that if you have patience and you give people support, they will show you that they are capable, and you see their strengths, and then you just work on what their strengths are and bring that into the team, because that's what makes a successful team. And some of it takes longer. I've only been in my current company 10 months, but I've seen such a difference, and it's beautiful. Do you know what I mean? But you just have to give it time, especially in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
That's another one you have to add to the dimensions.
Very inspiring to hear both of your stories, and it can be really tough to take that first step. But I guess it's that point that the strength probably comes from your authenticity rather than just trying to blend in. That's probably your kind of superpower and what you bring to the table in relation to how you are and your lived experiences. So I think really good examples there. Rachael, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I just echo all of that. I consider myself very lucky in that where I work, diversity is one of our key drivers, and it's very much talked about as, it's not just about being diversity because that seems to be the in thing, but diversity brings new skills, it brings new thoughts, brings new feelings and experiences, and that can really help push a company and a team forward. So I feel really very privileged to work at a company that not only lets me be my authentic self, so if I had any of my team on, they would be telling you that I am a very emotional, wearing my heart on my sleeve kind of person, and that's fine because that is me. So there will be times where I will be passionate and show that through maybe tears of joy, or maybe not tears of joy if it's not going so well. But I also have a wide I have colleagues in my team from a really diverse set of backgrounds. I have people who've done job share. We've got part-time colleagues. We've got colleagues with children, colleagues without children. We've got colleagues of colour from different religious faiths and backgrounds. That's what I really, really love working where I do, in that is genuinely celebrated as a benefit to the company. So that's obviously wider than just from a gender perspective. It's much wider and much more, for me, exceedingly important.
Very, very good to hear that from you all as leaders, that you've had to advocate for yourself in different circumstances, and it's just put you in good stead. So again, people take confidence from taking that first step and being able to do that. I just wanted to circle back again, Kirste, at the very start when you were talking, I think you mentioned something around challenges and knockbacks, which inevitably you're going to get in your career. Everyone will do. And you mentioned resilience. So any advice in relation to how do people stay resilient when they do inevitably face challenges or knockbacks, when they do go for something it doesn't quite work out? Is there anything you would want to share in relation to your experiences?
And gosh, that's a tough question, isn't it? Because I think resilience comes from within, and it comes from knowing that you've got some sort of support network, regardless of whether that's in the work, the home, in general life. And I think, Rachael, you made reference to having very supportive family. So I suppose for me, my supportive family gave me the resilience. But the other thing is, I did keep an eye on and a focus on what I wanted to achieve. So back at the start, I said I got kicked out of school for being pregnant. Sorry, but I did. I was out of work for a long time. I got a job. I got a part-time job. I was really lucky. Right place, right time. And I worked really hard at it. And it's cliche as this sounded, I just put the time in because I knew it was a step towards what I wanted. And what I wanted was a better life for me, my son. And then, as life has gone by, I've not tried to think about the end goal. I've literally thought, right, this next step, let me see if I can do it. If I can do it, that's great. If I can't, you know what? I'll take a side step over here and I'll work that out. And I have taken side steps to then come back and achieve what I wanted to do. And it's just about kind of literally just, I once went to, sorry, I'm just reflecting, I once went to a session with a pal, and he was talking about he'd been on a walk, and he'd taken a step onto a stone, and he was looking down the river. This is a true story. And he thought, God, that's really lovely. I wonder if I can take the next step. Here's another stone. And he looked out again and he kept on going. And before he knew it, he was in the middle of this river, looking down at beautiful views. And I've always kind of picked that visually as I'm just going to go to the next stone and see and look at my life, and not to forget to reflect back and go, gosh, look how far I've come. Because actually that feeds the positive side of it to help you with the resilience. Look at how far I've come, look at what I've achieved. I might have had a knockback here, but you know what? There's another stepping stone over here. I'm going to try that one. That would be my summation of my life, I think.
No, it's good to hear. A lot of people think very far into the future, right? So they've already got this clearly defined path, and it rarely ever goes that way, right? And like you said, sometimes you can take a sideways step to get to ultimately where you want to be. And Rachael, I think there's something when we were chatting before, you were talking about a lot of people think linear, like all the way up, rather than the breadth of experience that they can get to help them get to the end goal. So I think very wise words, Kirste, in relation to resilience. And Rayhana and Rachael, I'm sure you've both had knockbacks or when things haven't quite gone your way. It'd be interesting.
I think something Rachael said earlier reminded me to think about journaling. It's a really good way of building resilience. And there have been, low periods. I mean, making the decision to transition from the company I was working in, I'd known everybody, I'd built up relationships. It was the people aspect of it, and the thought of I've got what felt like starting all over again and having to build a reputation somewhere else. It's constantly reminding yourself, what is it that you've done? And it just has to be, what have you done really well today? And then what you do is look back and think, actually, I have done really well, and I have achieved all these milestones, and they might be small or they might be big, but they then give you the confidence to keep thinking, I can keep taking the next step. And we all fall. Do you know what I mean? Even as a child, and you see all the examples of children just keep going and keep going until they get that skill that they've been working hard, you know, might be 400 times they do it. And it's just remembering we can keep doing that. It doesn't matter what age you are, you just keep going and you will get to where you want. But it might sometimes lead you off on a different path. And then you go, I've never thought of that. But actually, now that I'm doing it, I can't imagine not doing it. So don't ever think if your heart's set on something and you don't get it, that is the end. It's not. Some other door will open and you look back and think, my God, it was such a better role or better path that I've taken, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So just believe in the fact that if one door closes, it means a better door's opening.
Absolutely. There was I had an experience, maybe 18 years ago now, where unfortunately my role that I really loved at the time in a company I worked for was made redundant. So and I was absolutely devastated. I'd seen myself, I'd visualized myself in that company for a long time. So to have my role, to be told that I was no longer going to be working for that company was really, really devastating. And also came at a time when I'd just about to turn 30. So it was a milestone event for me as well. And, what am I going to do now? And I genuinely think that was a turning point in my career, because I was forced to really reconsider what I really wanted, rather than just sitting there and waiting for something to happen to me. It's where I got to speak to some great recruitment companies who were helping me look for the next role. And I genuinely do not think I would be the manager in the company that I am today if that hadn't have happened to me. At the time, I was so devastated. It honestly felt like the worst thing that had happened in my life. But genuinely feel that it was probably the best thing that happened. So what I'd say to anybody is these challenges will and may come, but try your best to see them as an opportunity. I know in the middle of it, when you are worried about money coming in or what that will mean to you as an individual or your family, it's terrifying. But just when you're outside, if you're on the other side of it, you may well be looking back going, wow, I'm glad that happened. Wow, I'm really pleased. It's made me reassess. It's made me think differently. It's made me look in a different direction for my career. It's made me think, actually, I can do something completely different. And, at the beginning of this call, we saw a lot of people saying that they wanted to do something completely different. Often that gives you that push to do that. So I know that's hard, very, very hard. But almost you have to build your own resilience then, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I've heard that so many times that when you're facing adversity, that's when some of the best things come out of it. You don't see it at that point, but it sometimes pivots you into a new unexpected direction, but could be really fulfilling and just open something up for you that you've not considered before. I'm going to move on to the last question, and then I think we are probably going to open up to a couple of questions. Just for everyone on the call, do you have any recommendations for resources in self-development that you would like to put out there to share?
I have also a need to fill silence. It's one of my traits, just so we know. Just being honest. So from a self-development perspective, I suppose I do read a fair bit. Well, I listen while I'm doing other stuff to kind of those audio type books, and I suppose from that perspective, trying to kind of listen to people like, for example, believe it or not, Michelle Obama's story, or Brené Brown's type books around kind of those types of leadership styles, and it, not that I slavishly follow anything, it just gives you that reflection upon yourself and where are you at in your leadership journey. And I suppose the other kind of main source of resource, I've literally just finished a master's degree, and that was fascinating because it was about strategic leadership, but there were so many different strands of it, and it just gave me a different perspective and breadth. And so some of the papers that we got to read there were really quite interesting as well. But people, networks, journaling, reflections, those sorts of things are things I've done all the way through at some point or other.
I think the two things that have stuck with me. The first one is the chimp paradox. With Professor Steve Peters, which we actually had someone come and talk to us through that. So quite a lot of my colleagues in Asda, we had sessions on that, and I just found that really, really interesting to help understand confidence, success, and behaviours, and how people respond. So I often find myself picking that book back up. So that's something I'd recommend to everybody. And then I think the other one, which is probably more recently, is Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In, a fantastic female role model. And I just think that book was, again, about shining light on women in leadership. Just really fascinating story. So I think those are the two I would recommend.
I do read a number of books, but I think for me it's like TEDx talks, or if your company's quite good, they give the LinkedIn Learning, and they do lots of courses. They can be short, or like 1 hour, 2 hours, so you can listen to like strategic thinking or whatever it is that you want to know more about. But I've also found there's lots of free things that you can search for, Google, and then you're like, oh, this is interesting. Let's read a bit more about that. I'm terrible. I start reading things and I never finish them. So I always know so much, but not the whole thing. So that's why I haven't recommended any books.
Audiobooks are the way to go. Literally, you can do all sorts by listening to an audiobook.
That's great. Thank you so much for recommending those resources, and thank you all so much for your time. I think that's my questions pretty much done. Hopefully people took a lot away from the conversation. Safa, I didn't know if we were looking to open up to some questions if we've got a bit of time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that amazing panel. It was incredible. I want to take this opportunity to thank our amazing partner SThree on this amazing event today, and a huge thank you to our amazing speakers, Rayhana, Kirste, Rachael, and Varinder. I've learned so much from you all. It's just been so inspiring and very insightful for our participants. And a big thank you to our participants as well that has joined today. Your engagement has been incredible. We do have many questions that came through. We only have a couple of questions that we have time for. So I'll start with the first one that I have on my list here. So how do you face the current job market with determination when it seems like every major company is going through mass layoffs? It seems discouraging and insurmountable to break into tech in this job climate. Would anyone like to answer this question first?
I suppose the way I would kind of frame it is sometimes it's about testing out whether or not your application, your CV, your engagement is the right one, and being able to seek that feedback is really, really helpful, and getting somebody to help put you through the paces as well. So I haven't done it for a few months, but I used to do quite a lot around supporting colleagues to go through that interview skills and literally kind of help them work out what their 5 or 6 killer examples would be that they can reframe in different ways depending on what questions they're being asked during an interview. And like I say, sometimes it's about kind of pitching your application or your CV in the right way for the job, and really bringing out those key skills that the job is looking for. You don't need to tick everything on the requirements box, and I think that's something that we as women tend to want to tick everything. So it's about being able to play up your key skills, and especially if it's a leadership role. And I think Rayhana talked about earlier on, and Rachael, about transferable skills. That would be my take on it.
I'd also say, working in the recruitment industry, the market has shifted this year, definitely. We were in a bit of a boom market coming out of COVID. It was a bit crazy, really. But there's still a lot of movement in the market. That's what I'm seeing. You don't necessarily always need a huge amount of growth. You just need movement. If you're finding it challenging, I'd think about, similar to what Kirste said there, how are you positioning yourself to be able to get a foot in the door? And that might be your LinkedIn profile. It might be what you put in your CV. never be afraid to show a bit of personality because it makes you stand out. And I would also suggest, if you've got anything in the way of like references or additional work that you've done, it just shows passion and that willingness to go the extra mile. And again, from a CV, you've got maybe a reference or someone that's advocating for you, which always goes a really long way. So I just say stick at it and have a little think about those things, and definitely use people in your network like recruiters to get advice. We spend a lot of our time giving people advice on what's out there, how to position yourself. So take advantage of it for sure.
I'd also say flexibility. So, and I think we've touched upon it a couple of times. Don't go with your headset of this is the role I want to be. I think all of us have touched upon one shape or another of, you know, your journey might be in a different direction. Think sideways, think diagonally, think, you know, maybe even think backwards a little bit to get you in the door. Just be flexible. Don't be so rigid in your thought process of what you want.
Great answers. Thank you so much, Kirste, Rachael, and Varinder. Rayhana, I just saw you came off.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say I couldn't find any more to add, but I was just conscious if you can get another question in, because I imagine time's running out.
Yes, thank you. And one more question I would like to ask you all is, it's valuable to get real and honest feedback from your team members. Do you have any tips on how to encourage this?
Psychological safety would be my first. So by creating an environment and fostering an environment of psychological safety where you are coming at things from a position of kindness, you will influence your colleagues to also come at it from a position of kindness, and knowing that if they're going to give you some feedback, they're not going to be met with an adverse reaction. But it takes time to build that. It's through trust.
Yeah, agree. I think the first step is asking for feedback. Don't be scared to ask, and just try not to take it personally. It's like what you said there, Kirste. If you've asked someone for feedback and then you react negatively, it's going to be difficult for them to give you feedback again. So I think the first step is just asking, and yeah, it does need to be the right kind of environment, like a feedback culture for it to work. But you can spur that on by being the person that puts it out there first.
I think also making sure you're asking the right people as well, because it's often very, very easy as an individual to go and ask the people that are going to give you the glowing, wow, you're doing an absolutely cracking job, but avoid maybe asking for feedback from the people who might be just a little bit too honest. Maybe spend a bit of time of targeting those people, because they're the ones that are going to give you the nuggets that will probably step you on. Or maybe if you're having a bad day, go to the people who are going to give you the glowing runs, but then save the next day when you actually need to work on something to go and talk to the people who are going to give you the nuggets.
I think I'd agree that you need to build that trust, and it takes time, especially if your role is new or you're new in the organisation. But it's chipping away. It's being open as well. So showing that you're happy to receive feedback, you're happy to be honest how you're feeling and things like that. And that's little actions that you're taking, which then is almost signalling to the other person that it's okay to be open and honest.
Thank you so much, everyone, for answering. And that then takes us to the end of the session, then over 1 minute over. So thank you, everyone, for your time. And again, I want to take this opportunity to thank our amazing partner, SThree, and Rayhana, Kirste, Rachael, and Varinder. It was an incredible session. And thank you again to all of our amazing participants that joined today. You've all been absolutely amazing. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.